Welcome back to my box fan build. In this video I'm going to wire up my solar panels and my inverter and pretty much everything else that I already have installed in the van. And then we'll do some testing on the solar panels and see how well they work. So I'm changing the ends on these leads that go into my roof because I figured out these are designed backwards from the application that I'm using them for. So these are made to go like in this way, so the connectors were backward on them. So I'm replacing them. I had a set of MC4 connectors and I figured out you really don't need a special tool to do this. They just crimp on. They come apart like this. There's a grommet and a, whatever you call that, to cinch onto the wire. And then on the inside it's just a barrel plug with two wings, and then they just crimp onto the wire like that. And I've already made a better crimp on this new one than the one that came with it. So right now, just to get this rubber on, because it's not really wanting to go, I'm using a tiny little bit of Teflon silicone. And I've got all my panels hooked together, which I will show you here in a minute. And then I got my splitters on them, so I can hook them together in series and parallel. 2 by 2. And then after this I just need to figure out a good way to tie up the wires neatly so they'll resist 70-mile-an-hour winds on the interstate. So the positive is now done. Just like that. Now I'm going to do the negative. Just cut this end off. Strip it and put a new end on. Installation reverse of removal. Yeah, it's got these two little wings. You fold them over and then you give it a good solid crimp. And I suppose I'll replace the actual grommet with the new one, even though they're the exact same thing, just for the sake of doing them both equally the same. And from what I can tell, MC4 connectors are designed where there's only one way to hook them up, and the panels themselves don't actually say, hey, I'm positive and I'm negative. But on the ends of the connectors, they do have a plus and minus, and there's only one way you can install them. I even took this cover off of the panel and inspected that, and then looked inside to see if there was another way to confirm which side's positive and which is negative, but it didn't say anything. So I'm trusting that I'm doing this right. I know the lighting's bad, you're on a GoPro, but it's crimped. I'm using this silicone lubricant because safe on rubber, and it's not conductive. It's flammable, but it's not conductive. When I get done with this, I'll explain my reasoning behind the way I'm wiring these up too. I'm no expert, but there is some, you know, math involved. Alright, I got it all set up where none of the wires run under the crossbars, and there's almost no wire exposed at all. It's just a little bit there, a little bit there, and a tiny little bit over in that corner. And just right here where it comes out of the cable entry is where it goes under the bar, but there's plenty of room there for that. So this is done. All right, here's how I wired the panels, just to give you a quick, like, an idea. Okay, so here's the 4 panels. Here's where their leads or their inputs are, their outputs, I mean. And then here is, we'll put it way over here so you can see, but here's coming out of the van. Okay, so these two come together on one of their leads. Same with this. So one of these guys comes together like that. I hooked them together. And then the other one, these other guys come out, you know, like that. And then we have a little splitter. So, like a little Y, 2-into-1 splitters. So then I took 4 panels and ended up with two leads. And then that's what goes into the van. So it's 2 of these together, 2 of these together in series. And then they split down into 2 leads from 4 to 2, and then that goes into the van. And what that's doing basically is each of these panels is 200 watts. So we still have 800 watts. But they're 12 volt, but their maximum voltage is 18.1, I believe. 18.2. So they're 18.2 maximum voltage each panel, and then they're 10.9 amp maximum each panel. So by doing them in series, and then parallel, so now we have 36.4 volts going into the charge controller, and we're at 43.6 amps, which I have a 65 amp shutoff switch up there. And then the specs on the charge controller, it can do 870 watts at 12 volts, 1740 watts at 24, 2556 watts at 36, or 3840 at 48, and maximum input voltage 150. So we're well within those specs. And then it can charge up to 60 amp output. So, and with 560 amp hours of battery and 800 watts of solar, I should be able to charge my batteries completely full every day that it's sunny, pretty much. even if I'm using them all day. Unless I'm doing a heavy load on them, like cooking or, you know, running something significant. But just having like my electronics, my laptop, lights and fans going, my batteries should pretty much always be full, I think. Home Depot making a comeback. So I picked the sunniest, nicest day of the week to install my solar panels. So we won't be doing any testing, you know, today, but hopefully this week we'll get some sunny days. And according to this charge controller, when I turned my batteries on the other day, they're low. They need a charge, which I can do with my inverter because it's a charging inverter, or just use my solar and see how well it can charge up some pretty low batteries. And then my battery monitor, I need to calibrate it with the batteries 100% full. So you get the battery charged up all the way, and then you tell the battery monitor, yeah, they're full, and then it can give you a reading of your capacity after that. At the moment, just by turning it on without programming anything into it, it just tells me like the voltage, the wattage and amperage draw on it. So just like the current, basically. And none of these things have like Bluetooth or an app. You know, they're just basic, no touch screen even, or none of that. I know, archaic, right? But I mean, the van will be still pretty high tech. I'll have like navigation and all that. Maybe I'll get myself a nice brass sextant, you know. I also mentioned that I'm gonna have a weather station. There you go. Anyway, just for shits, we're in the shop and the door's closed, but let's just see if there's any reading on these wires coming in from the panels. See if a couple of 400 watt metal halides produce any solar radiation. We have 16.13 volts coming in just right here in the shop, just from the shop lights. That's pretty cool. And I would assume, to assume makes an ass out of you and me, by the way, that if the voltage is 16.13 and the battery voltage is 13.18, then in theory, if I turned all this on right here in the shop, it should charge my batteries very slowly. But it should produce a charging current, I would think. I'm not gonna find out yet. I'm just gonna wait till it's, you know, sunny and we'll go outside and do this. But that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. The next thing I'm gonna do is start running the wires for my lights and my max fan. I got some staples at Home Depot, and I got my AC switches for the shore power, the water heater, and the exterior outlet. And I still need to install that exterior outlet too, so in this video I'll be drilling another hole in the side of the van. So these low volt staples are pretty much the same as the coaxial staples, except they're smaller, and instead of round, they're square. So they're perfect for this or like speaker wire. So that's what I'm gonna use for all of this stuff over here. And what I'm gonna do is just kind of run them separately down, kind of like I ran all that orange stuff down below, which if I couldn't find these, I was gonna do like a similar thing with the zip ties, you know, wire separators, but I kind of like the idea of the staples better. So what I'll do is I'm going to do ceiling light on the left, and then porch light, and then this is bedroom light, and then I'll do the max fan on the right. Oh yeah, those are perfect. Might be a little small for the max fan wire though. Yeah, the max fan is 14 gauge, and it's just a little too big for this. So we'll just use something else for that. Probably the coaxial staple, honestly. And again, I'm casting shadows with my body because it's the only way to do it right now. But once I wire up these ceiling lights, you know, suddenly I'll have better video quality in the van. Something to look forward to. All right, we'll see if we can hit both of my fingers. There we go. So down there under the desk, it's a damn mess, but up here it's supposed to look pretty, so. And then we'll do porch light, or as I labeled it, starboard light. All of the labels for the fuse box and the switches that I bought and the breakers all have like, they're all very maritime, you know. So I think it's only fitting to refer to things as, you know, bow, stern, port, starboard, galley, cabin, poop deck. No, I'm kidding. There, that looks pretty good. And I'll, you know, I don't like it, but I'll get a coaxial staple for that because it's just too big. There. That's not bad, yeah. And of course I'll put more. So we got to come down to basically where the switch is going to be for these things. So here's the ceiling light switch. And the bedroom light I cut way too short. Perfect. What the hell is there? Bending the nail and shit. Is it not there? I grabbed the tiniest hammer that was in my drawer. This thing's like, it's for children. It's perfect. Maybe it's a 12 ounce. What's your favorite kind of hammer? I like a 20 ounce framing hammer with the smooth head. And my favorite brand is Estwing. You guys have like hammer preferences? Framing hammer has less of a curve on the claw. And I prefer smooth head because they make waffle head, which is like knurled for some reason. I don't really understand why. I never really cared to ask, to be honest. All right. So we got to start wiring things up. We'll wire up our ceiling lights, and then we have to run power from these switches down to the fuse panel, and then we can run our grounds from all of this just straight over to the bus bar. And then everything that comes into the fuse panel down below the desk, like the two things I wired up and didn't show you in the last video, which is the reading / night light and the lights over in the kitchen. Their grounds can go into the negative section of the fuse block. It all ends up in the same place, but for this switch, it says right on it what to do. you're switching the negative. So white would be your negative coming in from the bus bar, and then black is going to the negative on the ceiling lights. And then red all ties together. So you just tie your reds together and then straight down to the fuse. A lot of times switches do switch the negative. It's actually a safer way to do it. But the way these rockers are set up, they all have a common negative and then they switch the positive. So, and that's how they make the LED on it work, you know. But this is a dimmer, and it wants you to switch the negative, which is how it makes the dimmer work. So now when I run my power up to these switches, I got to think about which things are going to share a fuse. So I think the bed light, which is that LED color changing strip that I put under my cabinet back there, I think I'll have that and the ceiling lights share a fuse. And really I could put the porch light on that fuse too. I have a 10 position fuse panel down there. I mean, you don't want to put too much crap on a fuse, but I think a bunch of LED lights, you know, if I stuck a 10 amp fuse in there and had 3 LED, or all my ceiling lights, that LED strip and that porch light on there with 16 gauge high temp wire, you know. The max fan is going to get its own dedicated fuse, and I am going to switch it. Why not? Anyway, I'm going to grab some stuff and I'll see you in a minute. So I went ahead and put that last scene on time lapse. I just kind of had to figure it out as I went, and I didn't want to film 2 hours of me doing that and have to edit all of that. So I got it pretty much done now, and I can kind of show you and explain it all. Okay, coming out of the cabinet, you have the ceiling light, the bedroom light, the porch light, and the max fan. And then the first thing over here is the switch for the ceiling light, and it switches the negative because it's a dimmer. So I have the positive power going to the ceiling light tied together to the light and the switch and coming up right there. And then the ground, the negative, is what is being switched here. Right below that, I've got the panel accessories, and I went ahead and ran just a 12 gauge wire over to these, and I'm going to use that to power these USB chargers here and these fans. So I just gave it kind of a decent, better power source, and that's going to run straight down to its own fuse. And then I ran grounds to all of these switches, and the ground for the fan controller is going to run off of these too. And then I've got those all tied into 12 gauge grounds over here. The grounds for the ceiling lights, all the lights, and these switches all tie into these 12 gauge wires. And then they run over along with the ground for the max fan over to the negative bus bar. And I ended up having to move them because I had them kind of down here. And then I figured out when I shut the plexiglass, they kind of got in the way of that. So they actually look better this way now. And then everything is, it has to come over to the left so the panel can hinge open. So I've got these one-hole straps on everything, and I got them all in there loosely. So when I open and close the panel, the wires can kind of, I'll show you with it closed. It works really well. And then everything running down from here. So we've got lights, max fan, and panel accessories. And those are all running down to the fuse block, and they're all gonna get their own individual fuses. And then these, I never really showed you guys this, but this is the data cables for the battery monitor and the inverter controller. And what I did is I just taped them together neatly, and then I used 3/8 one-hole straps that stand off of the screws that hold these things to the panel. And they just kind of neatly run over to the hinge side. And then I have a 1/2 inch one-hole strap so it can slide through nice. And then they're just running down to the inverter and the shunt. And then what I'm gonna do now is waste a whole bunch of time wiring up these fans. And I'm gonna have them run over along the top of the panel to where this controller is, and then run down. And I think what I'm gonna do is use foil tape. I'm gonna take foil tape and cut it in half lengthwise and try to make a really neat, like silver chrome looking strip that just tapes it to the plastic basically. And we'll see how that looks, you know. I might end up replacing that with something else or gluing the wire to the plexiglass. But the way that I'm routing them, there's like nothing, it's just a big open space. There's nothing to like adhere them or like clamp them on with like I'm doing with this stuff. And then the wire, the power going to this controller, I'm also going to tape, and it's just going to be a 16 gauge black and red, and it's going to run from this switch straight over and then up to that. Alright, that took me like an hour, but I got it all wired up. It's not the most attractive setup, and I wired it how I'm pretty sure it's going to work correctly, where I got the LEDs powered. I don't know if this dimmer, we'll call it, cuts power to the negative as well, to the fans, but hopefully not. And if that's the case, how I think it is, then the LEDs should turn on and the fan speed should be controllable. But I just made kind of a weird little pretzel back here, and I cut all the plugs and everything off of it. Then I have it teed right there, and then running to either fan, and then below is the power going to it over from the switches. And then on the front, it is going to pretty much be right in front of like where the Starlink router is. But, you know, it'll do. Also, this wire is super teeny tiny. The stuff coming off of here is 24 gauge. And then the stuff coming off of the fans is 22. So I used my super dinky wire strippers and my super tiny, super fine solder. And then for a lot of it, I just used tape because, you know, I don't even have heat shrink that tiny. But I had to extend one of the fans. There's like a piece that big in there to get it, you know, to come down evenly. So I'm not totally in love with the look. I'm considering either getting clear tape or even taping off the areas where the foil tape is and then a square around the fan controller and then spray painting it black. But I'm going to leave it like that for now and move on to installing the fuses for these things and powering everything on to see if it works. Alright, so here we've got panel accessories, max fan, and lights. And what I'm going to do is get them in some split loom and run them over just like that and have them come down right here next to the fuse block. And I'll have the split loom end sort of right there. And then I will run just to the positives because the negatives go to the bus bar up there. And we'll get 3 fuses in. Cut them a little long just because, you know. So I bought a terminal pack, a big one from Amazon. That's what these are. They have heat shrink on them. And I quit using them because they're trash. So if you've been looking at the list of stuff I bought on Amazon, don't buy that ring terminal set. What I don't like about it is the metal is just way too thin. The ones I'm using right now, these are actual Molex brand. But I don't have a whole lot of them. And I bought that terminal pack from Amazon because I knew I'd be using a whole crap load of them on this van, but you get what you pay for, you know. I mean, they work, you know, they're not that bad, but I just don't like them. I'm not a big fan of the quality, so just so you know. And up there on those rocker switches, those Nightlight brand ones, which is a real popular brand, some of the crimps pulled out when I was taking them on and off the switches, so I had to replace a few of them already too. Alright, so we're doing the top fuse here is going to be lights. Also, you can use them like kind of fork looking terminals. They don't have to be ring terminals, but I like this better because, you know, it can't come out. And then the second one down is going to be max fan, which I did switch the max fan up there on the panel, which isn't really necessary. It's got on and off controls on it, but just because I decided to switch the actual power to the entire thing. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a 10 amp fuse for the lights, but I don't really know what I want to use for that max fan. I should probably look it up and see what it draws. But I'll either use a 10 or a 15 for that. And I'm gonna go ahead and go full 20 amp on this for the USB chargers and all that. 20 is the max that all those rocker switches can take. But the reason I went with 12 gauge wire for the panel accessories is because I'm going to have at least 8 USBs on there. And they're all like high wattage ones that I'm getting. So I'll be charging all of my drone batteries, GoPro batteries, like a bunch of stuff all at once. So I want a decent power for that. And I just threw 10s in for now for the lights that I installed the other day. Just for shits, just to get it all up and running. The wire is rated for a lot higher, but you know, that's just what we're doing today. All right, so now I can go see if all the ceiling lights and everything up there that I wired up works. And if I did something wrong, well, it should blow a fuse anyway, but we'll see. All right, ceiling lights. And then if you hold it down, sweet. Porch light. And amber. Backlights. Oh, that's cool. How do these work? Whoa. They're on like noise mode. Alright, let's play with this. That's red. Whoa. Cool. Green. Blue. Ooh. Look at that. Yellow. That's more like green. Pink. Cool. Ooh, white. I like white. Mode. Whoa, look at that. How cool is that? Alright, let me turn the ceiling lights off. Turn my studio light off here. Party van. Alright, let's try max fan. On. Sweet. Is there a speed? That's open, close. Temperature, in and out. Maybe it's just one speed. Does the remote work? No, I have to put batteries in that. I think it takes like D cells or something. Alright, fans. Ooh, look at that. Oh, it's got a little light in it. Okay, so the LEDs are operated on the, it does, I mean the dimmer operates on the negative, so my LEDs dim with the fans. I kind of like it though. I mean, it's smooth. How cool is that? Haha. Cool. Hell yeah, guys. Van rave. Haha. Does my solar actually work? It's noon on Monday, and it's only about 43 degrees outside, and I'm supposed to be at work right now. But this is the only sunny day in the forecast until next week, and I gotta know. It's working. $31 amps. We're getting almost 500 watts of charge right now. This is awesome. $35.5 amps. I need to program this or calibrate it once the batteries are full, and then tell it how many amp hours I actually have and all of that. That way it'll tell me the actual capacity of my batteries. But this tells me with the little indicator there. It's working. I kind of want to just leave it on, but I might, and then come back after work, I suppose. Hope my van don't burn to the ground between now and then. This is awesome. The little fan just kicked on. I wonder how hot it gets. It's a cold day, so there's a little warmth coming out of there. Not bad though. It's not like cooking. And it just cycled back off. Cool. Yeah, I thought about if it's gonna be like an issue, I could always you know, pop a little hole in there or something. But right here is open, you know. You can, it's not like it's totally encased in this cabinet here. This is pretty sweet. I want to just stand here and watch my batteries charge for hours, but I should probably go back to work. Panel voltage, battery voltage, amperage, load, panel wattage. We're doing Frost King window tape now. It's much more subtle. That foil tape was a terrible idea, and it was not fun to remove. I'm kind of surprised you let me do that. I thought we were friends, but... Last night it took me about, 5 minutes to pick out these sheets and pillows. They're campy, you know, and they're brown, so dirt color. And these pillows are 60% goose down and 40% polyester fill. And I got a 2-pack on sale. You won't believe where I bought these. So I mentioned I'd be drilling a hole through the side of the van in this video to install this outlet. And I'm just gonna go right there. And my hole saw is not deep enough to get all the way through this wall. So this could be interesting. Here we go. I'm gonna have to just peel layers, you know, as I go here. All right, here we go. Now I remember. This drill bit sort of burned its way through the van last time. Ooh. Smells like the campfire. Maybe I should just finish it off on the outside. It says open cap before use. It also says max wire size 14. And this is 12. And it's supposed to thunderstorm tonight. And there's a hole in my van. YouTube drama. Yeah, I think step one will be cutting this. So yeah, I thought about putting that DC plug like next to this one, and then just have that off a switch as well. Might be kind of neat. This is the patio side of the van, you know. I'm gonna have an outdoor rug, have the awning out, you know, table and chair, 14 cats. It really is supposed to thunderstorm tonight though. Oh yeah, 12 gauge works. That was just a suggestion. And once again, I'm gonna go ahead and just trust the rubber that came with it. You know, it's what I did on the other side. It'd probably be smart to get some butyl tape on this. But we'll just do the rubber gasket for now. And maybe when I go to paint the van, I'll pull this back off along with the other things on the other side. Get some butyl behind it or something, you know. Open the cap before use, guys. Read the instructions. And it's pretty obvious why I'm switching this outlet, you know. Not because I'm greedy and I don't want to share my power with people, but driving down the road, extremely wet conditions. All right, I just decided if we're gonna do this, let's just do it. You know? YOLO. Nobody says that anymore. DC outlet, AC outlet. The question is, do I put it to the left or above? Above? Yeah, I like that. And I should probably measure and all that, you know. That would be wise. I got it. I nailed it. I liked the whole YOLO thing. I live by that, you know. It's better than that just do it Nike thing, you know. So there's one major problem with what I just did. This outlet has no like flange. It just has a, so I don't know how I'm gonna actually screw it to the van, you know? Didn't think that through. That looks good though. 12 volt, 120 volt. This van's fully loaded. It doesn't have power windows or locks or cruise control, but yeah, it might have cruise control. I actually don't even know. Never even looked. yeah, unless I drill the inner plywood out much larger, I am not getting that nut on there. That's probably what I'm about to do, is just cut that plywood on the inside to a bigger diameter. And I might try that stack and 2 hole saws trick that you guys were telling me about and see if it works. I didn't even take the plywood out of the inner hole saw, because why, you know? I don't know. That worked really good. Wow. My subscribers are genius. Brilliant. Alright, so I just pick away the foam a little. So I got a nice bit of the exterior plywood to get the back of that nut on. And hope that it's big enough to actually make a good clamping, you know. Can one of you guys go out there and just put your finger on this? Alright, since nobody volunteered, I put some tape on it. I'll probably never use this outlet, but it's cool, you know. That's the cat hitch, by the way. Alright, I upgraded the USB ports. There are now 10 of them. And the power coming in on the 12 gauge splits to a 14 that powers these. And then the 16 that runs over to this one for the fans. And then the rest of these switches pigtail off that 16. And I just kind of pulled the one out of this one. And then up here they're all 16 gauge, and then I gave them their own ground running over to the 12 gauge ground coming up, and then the rest of the switches and those fans have their 16 gauge grounds. So all the wires for this are 14 gauge, and then coming up to this from the bus bar and the fuse block is 12 gauge. So over here, it's this switch to turn them all on. And then we have the 2 that were already there. And then these. So now we have 10 USBs. Alright, I made a pretty significant design change here. I moved my AC circuits out. They're like hanging from this board now instead of being back against the wall. And I moved my outlet strip to the wall because I needed more room for my battery cable, because I still need to run my inverter wires up and all that, and this was just in the way. Also, my shore power needs to go up to the switch, and I didn't have it with these up here. And then this exterior outlet, I'm going to switch that. So I got a little box down here for, it's like a junction box. It's going to go right there. That way I can run the minimum amount of wire I need up to this switch box here. So it's a whole thing, this AC stuff, and that's going to be kind of continued in the next video, because I still have to get my breaker panel and all that. So the inverter and the AC is all going to be in the next video. Do dirty solar panels work on a cloudy day? This van is such a mess right now. Okay, let's try it. Battery on. And solar. Yep, they're working. Wow. How many watts though? Probably not much. 120. You know, that's pretty good. It's like if I had a 100-watt panel and that was it, but I mean, for a cloudy day, it's cold out, it's April 2nd, you know, that's awesome. I'm gonna just let this charge while I'm at work and come back later, see how it's doing. They do not charge in the shop. I tested that already. Even though I get a little bit of a voltage from the panels inside, the controller does not kick on, it just idles. Look at that, almost 150. 150 watts on a cloudy day in the spring. I mean, I was getting 500 watts on a sunny day in March, you know. That's, what more can you ask for? If I was in the desert in the Southwest and it was, you know, full sun, I'd probably be getting close to that 800 watts I got. Sweet. Look at that. 200 watts. 202. 205. 206. 207. Oh my god! It's cloudy. And my panels are kind of dirty. When I'm living my best life, I'll, you know, clean them regularly, but pretty cool. 323, 330, what? I'm just way too excited about this. 350. 360. It's about 1 p.m. on Wednesday, so not bad. It's pretty much the, you know, the apex of the day as far as daylight happens, but sweet. Okay, this is crazy. It just hit 500. Alright, seriously, I gotta go back to work. Way too cool. Well, it's later in the day and it's really pretty dark out. And we're only getting, got up to about 75 watts earlier, but it's not doing as good as earlier, but it's still charging. But yeah, I mean, what can you expect on a day like this? Alright, reinventing the wheel again. I got rid of my zip tie wire separators because it just took up too much space. As cool as they are, I just wasn't practical down here, you know. So now I got them zip tied up in a bunch, and then I strapped them up that way. And then over here, I've got 2 junction boxes, one for the exterior outlet there, and then the shore power going to the inverter kind of just runs through that box. And then up here in this junction box, I've got the water heater and the shore power. And the reason I did that is so I can have the minimum amount of wire running up to my switches up here. And I set it up so the door hinges open and they have a perfect amount of movement and play and all that in them. So over here it's shore power, water heater, and exterior outlet. Friday, I'm picking up my breaker panel from my friend Tom. He just finished making the box for it, so I'll be getting that. And I'm going to install that and then finish wiring up the DC stuff and the relays, because I might have to move my fuse panel over just a little bit. Because all the wires are coming in on the left of the AC panel, so there might not be enough room. I'll have to move it over from where those Sharpie lines are. But we're getting there. And there's one more major thing I'm going to do in this video, and that will be tomorrow's project. And here's the aftermath of wiring a van. So it's not like really sunny, but it kind of is. And I've had this going since 11 o'clock this morning. It's about 3:45 now. I waited till 11 to turn it on because it got down to 32 last night, and I wanted my batteries to not be too cold. But according to the solar controller, I'm, half charged. I haven't programmed this yet, but it's saying I have at least 100 amp hours in there since I started messing with my solar. So I will just keep charging this thing until the solar controller tells me I'm full, and then I'll program the battery monitor and let it know that I have 560 amp hours, and then I'll get a good, it'll actually be functional, serve its purpose of telling me my battery capacity. And last night I ran my ceiling lights for about 4 hours, and it told me I used 3 amp hours of battery, which makes perfect sense because when I have the solar off and I have my ceiling lights on, it says it's drawing about 0.9 amps. So I need to come up with a better way to secure my batteries. I mean, it works, but I want to have something that I don't have to constantly think about. So it's back to the drawing board. And I think it's going to involve just wood and carpet, And I also got something to protect those terminals with that I'll show you here in a minute. Well, as much as I don't want to shut this off because it's actually charging, I need to unhook my batteries. So So I forgot to hit record, but you should have seen me struggling to get these batteries to fit in this cradle I just built. It is snug. And I may or may not even bother with this strap. I really don't think it's necessary at this point. They are not going anywhere. That's better. Oh yeah. Whew. All right. And one last thing. I gotta take my hoodie off. I broke a sweat. Now, do my cables still fit? That is the question. Seems a little tight, actually. It's just a tiny bit, like a 1/16 of an inch too short now. I mean, I'll make it work, but probably be a good idea to remake it. Well, that's okay. No big deal. These lugs that I bought are UL listed, believe it or not. It's crazy that a 1/16 of an inch difference actually matters, because this cable's so thick and so short. The positive actually fits better now and has that more of an arch to it, which is what I wanted, so it doesn't touch the negative. So that worked out to be a win. Just had to remake one cable. Yeah, now that my batteries aren't going to move around, I can really dial in this connection right here. That's perfect. That's money, dude. You ever watch that guy? That Cajun dude, that stale cracker. Alright, you see I'm making a paint line now that I have them permanently installed, so I think anyway. I make this line. And then I can just peek in here and see if it's all still lined up. Then I know nothing's moved, you know? Okay. So now, there's one more thing to do to this to make it 100% safe. 9, 11, 8, 1. 12. 9, 12, 8, 1. So I bought this sheet of acrylic. It's super flimsy and it's tiny. It was like 17 bucks. And what I'm gonna do is cut and bend a cover for those battery terminals to make sure nothing drops on them and shorts them out. Okay, so I said 9, 12, 8, 1. I'm gonna go double check that before I cut this, but we'll start by, well, that's 18. Yep, we'll do 9 this way. This is 18 by 24. Squeaky. Okay. Now we need 12 plus 9, 21. 1, 12, 20, 21. Okay. Here's the crazy part, all right? And I'm probably gonna destroy this in the process. And I should probably peel the film off, even though I'm gonna scratch it up by doing so. But then again, I won't be able to see my lines. Yeah, I'm gonna peel it and make new lines. It's so shiny, like glass. All right, 1, 12, 20. My battery is dying. Perfect. Now you gotta hold it till it cools. Okay. Now, ooh. Now we go this way. And this is such a small thing that I'm gonna grab a piece of wood to push on it. Otherwise, you know, burn my hands or something. Perfect. All right. So now we do it to this piece, and we're gonna go this way with it. One last time. Okay, now we have a custom cover for our battery terminals. We'll go fit it up. I'm gonna have to trim this back a little bit. I knew that, but we'll go see how it fits and mark out some things and finish it up. All right, so we're going to notch it here. That should be good, actually. Just the right side, and then we'll have it notch out to, well, basically the width of a 2x4. And that should be all I gotta do for notching. And we'll go ahead and just evenly place screw holes. Really nothing complicated about that. So if I can find the Dremel, what the hell did I put that thing? Where's the Dremel? I don't know. It's missing, guys. I know I threw it away. I'm talking about the other one. Oh, it's right here. What do you know? It's 9 o'clock on Thursday night. But that's okay. I'm not complaining. Totally got a different smell to it. Now we got to drill holes in it. Then we're done. And you know, I could get these Sharpie lines off of here somehow too, but I do have rubbing alcohol. Naturally, I plan on running Tex on this. So I'm just gonna try to get a couple of holes. Nice. All right, custom part complete. Look at that. And I got some extra. I think I'm gonna make one that goes over the shunt, just because. Oh yeah, that is sweet. Not only am I insistently making all my electrical visible, but I'm making it look like a damn museum piece here.
sound right, boys.
So I'll keep testing the solar panels and let you guys know how they're working, as well as everything else with the van build, you know, continually forever. So stay tuned.
Next week I'm going to install the AC breaker panel and the inverter. And then pretty much all the wiring will be done except for like the fridge and the DC to DC and everything up in the cab. But after that, I'm going to get back to working on the cabinets. I want to build those doors, get the cabinets done, and then finish my plumbing and build that shower. Special thanks to Mark and Alicia for joining my Patreon. And thank you everyone for watching my videos. And have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.